Sports Buzz, the Fanatical View. I am your host, Scott D. Lewis, here live in studio, Comcast Cable, Channel 23, downtown Danbury, Connecticut, on this, what do we got, February 21st. Yeah. The month just keeps ticking by, and we're moving into another, maybe, March with more just ice. Yeah. Ice and rain.
At least it was warmed up very nice.
Today was sunny. Everything was melting. It was very nice. So as you can see, we got a little different thing going on. You would have been able to hear, I'm not sure what happened with the audio there to start. A little mix-up, a little mixing of Dick Alexis and the Oscar preview music. Yeah. He's supposed to kill that Dick Alexis part of the audio, but you know.
Come on, live TV. What's the...
Tyler, we'll have a talk after the show, but we are live. And I am joined by a very special friend and somebody whose show I've been on many times at this time of year, Mr. Kevin Gallagher.
Hey, how are you?
Very good, Kevin. Nice to turn the tables, as it were, and have you come join me. Kevin has a show, Time Out with Kevin Gallagher, which has been on the air here on Channel 23 for...
23 years?
Right, Channel 23 for 23 years. And since 2010, he has had me on his show at this time of year to do an Oscar preview show. And in recent years, we've spread that out to 2 episodes so we could really dive deeper into it. We're just doing the one show here, so we're going to have to move quick if we're going to get to all these movies or even just talk about films in general. But 2010, Kevin, do you remember what the movie of the year was that year when we first did it?
I believe it was Avatar.
Well, Avatar was nominated, but he lost to his wife. Yeah. The Hurt Locker.
The Hurt Locker.
I remember it was his ex-wife, right?
His ex-wife, yeah. And I believe that was the first time a woman director had won for Best Picture.
So,
and for Best Director as well, I believe.
So, and that was the first year also that they spread it out from 5 to as many as 10. They don't always have 10. There is a possibility of 10 every year. Now, since there's 8 this year. Jeff Bridges won for Crazy Heart, and Sandra Bullock won for Blindside.
Blindside. She was actually really good in that.
And this year, I don't know, I should have looked to see who was the host of the Oscars that year, because there's no
Jimmy
host
Kimmel?
This year.
Yeah, it's very, that's a whole nother story in itself.
All right, I'm jumping ahead of things here. Let's officially say hello to my right-hand man, Mr. Bob Roth Jr., who's behind the cameras and mic'd up as usual. How you doing over there, Bob?
I'm doing well.
Did you see any of these movies this year?
I haven't seen any of them yet.
All right.
So I'm blinded.
So Bob's show, Spotlight On, is on Tuesday nights at 9 and Wednesdays at 12. We're not going to see a movie special show on your thing?
No.
All right. Jenna and Connor are here with Jolene as well. Tyler is here running audio, and of course David Suero. This is like 4 or 5 weeks in a row now.
So I guess we have him as our new.
I don't know. I don't want to jinx thing. He's back as our director. And we're really enjoying that. And an official welcome to Kevin Gallagher. Kevin, what are you up to these days? Some different things happening with your show. I know. I don't know what you want to get into, but let us know some of the different ways people can find you these days.
Oh boy. Well, you can of course go to YouTube, and on YouTube you can go to timeoutyoutube.com. You can check out the shows there. Going to have some new shows coming out pretty soon. Look for those. I've been working on a whole series of programs that are going to be very interesting. Right now I've been putting a lot of effort into a new radio network that's called Truth Be Told Radio Network, and it's truthbetold.org. You can go there, you can download the app for both the Android, the iPhone. It runs on TuneIn Radio, and you can also listen to it through an Alexa smart speaker. So you can say, Alexa, play Truth Be Told Radio Network, and it will start playing, which is pretty cool. So
that's awesome. It's
very awesome. So it's just taken up a lot of my time, and it's very cool. So I do hope you get a chance to check it out.
Yeah, truthbetold.org, Truth Be Told Radio.
Truth Be Told Network.
Network.org.
Actually, Chris Ponte, who does a show here, does a live show on my network every Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. And sometimes I do a live show Monday nights, but the rest of them are all taped shows.
Okay.
Kevin, of course, is we have all the sports stuff up, even we're going to get into the movies, and I'm not going to make him go down the road of what happened in the Super Bowl, but I didn't see it. I have to at least mention the former evil director of ours, Kevin Gallagher, is a big Kansas City Chiefs fan. Yeah. And, of course, the Patriots played an epic game against. Epic game that was. I like the Chiefs where they're headed, and I think you guys are looking good for the future.
Very good.
Not quite this year, as Kevin likes to say, the severed heads.
The severed heads.
The Patriots still got it done. And also, I'm just going to make a quick mention, because Kevin and I do text sometimes, especially every year, Daytona 500.
Yes.
So a lot of times we have the strange man stat of the week. Kevin, unbeknownst to him, gave me the stat of the week during his text, and that was that Joe Gibbs cars finished 1, 2, 3.
Yes.
So top 3 cars from Joe Gibbs, that'll be our stat of the week.
And what's interesting, too, is that the first 180 laps took as long as the last 20 laps of that race.
Well, after the 22-car pileup.
Pileup, it tends, so.
All right, so 91st Academy Awards are this Sunday. They're a little bit early. Usually they're not until first weekend or maybe even second weekend of March, but they did push it up this year. No host, which is very odd. We'll have to see what happens with that.
Well, who's going to be?
They have presenters.
They've done it before. They've done it without a host before. I forget what year, but it was.
It's been a long time.
It's been a long time.
And so that's going to be interesting. And I don't know. It seems like with the categories this year, not as many clear-cut favorites as well. So maybe no favorites, or not as many automatic favorites as we're accustomed to.
The problem that I'm having this year is, I'm going to be straight up with people. I haven't seen hardly any of these films that are nominated this year.
No, that's
and
fine. I've only seen a few, a handful maybe.
Didn't really want to, because there's a number of films that are nominated for Best Picture that I like, and that I still haven't had a chance to see. One is like Bohemian Rhapsody. Black Klansman looks really, really interesting.
Yep, very good.
I saw Black Panther. Star is Born is maybe I'll wait until it gets to Edmund Town Hall or something. But the problem that I'm having is that nothing really grabbed me this year.
Yeah, well, that's just, in some years it is like that. Black Panther I ended up seeing, and that's the movie that's kind of grabbed everybody, I guess you could say.
It's a Marvel.
One of the Marvel Universe films, and they're all over this movie as But I saw it recently, and I got to say, I just was not even all that impressed by it. I didn't think it was that great of a film. I thought, as far as these superhero movies go, it's a good superhero movie, but I didn't think it was this groundbreaking superhero movie as far as the story. Honestly, I thought the death scene of the villain was about as cheesy as it gets. And his delivery of the final line was like, wow, that was cliche.
Let's put it this way. The original comic book story, when it first came out, nobody really ever thought anything of it. It was just one of them loose.
And I thought they kind of quickly brushed through the history of like where Black Panther comes from, and that whole thing. And I didn't really, buy that much of it. But they are pushing it out there. I don't think it'll win, but it is one of the 8 films. So let's list the films first: Black Panther, Black Klansman, Bohemian Rhapsody, The Favorite, Green Book, Roma, A Star is Born, and Vice.
Yeah.
So, which movies in there do you think would grab you, or are the movies? So we're seeing some things where, like Black Panther, big, crowd-pleasing movie, a lot of people went to see. Bohemian Rhapsody, of course, a movie that...
It sounds like a very good movie.
Everybody I talked to who saw it liked it. All the critics have things good to say about it, but say the story is just so chock full of holes as far as historical accuracy that they can't see it as being this movie. And then A Star is Born is a movie that's now on its 4th time.
Yeah, I was going to say, how many remakes can you do of it,
And Lady Gaga is good. Of course, she's a great singer and all that. And Bradley Cooper, what do we think of Bradley Cooper? Like, he says he's not going to act anymore and he's just going to be a director. What do we think of his overall, his career? This guy from The Hangover and all this, Wedding Crashers, and now he's like directing.
And he's the voice of Rocket.
And, and he's, how many nominations has he got now for different things he's been in? What do we think of Bradley Cooper in this overall? Where he's at in our world.
Yeah, well, the thing is, you look at a film like Bohemian Rhapsody, one of my all-time favorite bands, and we were talking before this, there's something that Queen and the Beatles have in common, and they're the only two bands in the history of rock and roll that share this distinction, and that is that every member of the band wrote a song that went to #1.
That is amazing.
It is amazing when you think about it. You would think more bands, there's been great bands, even Rolling Stones, whoever. Nope, Queen and the Beatles are the only two bands to have that distinction, and you know, the band, I mean, when you look at Queen as a band, it's like the idea was, yeah, let's combine rock and roll with opera, and everybody will love it.
Right.
You would never, you know, you would never think that.
Right.
Yeah, and Freddie Mercury, of course, the front man of the band, just captures everybody's attention, and they did a great job of reenacting that. And they got, you know, everybody talked about the Live Aid performance and how they did that in this film, reenacted that as this great part of the movie and what they were able to do with that. What do we think about like these movies? You know, in years past, I've talked about how, you know, some of the Star Wars films maybe should have been nominated.
Yes.
You know, these big, huge, if it's the movie event of the year, shouldn't it be in the list? So I have some issues maybe because I didn't think Black Panther was good, but at the same time, are we happy that maybe now they're starting to include movies like this?
Well, I mean, you look at films like, I could even go back to Batman Begins. That could have easily been nominated for Best Film. And I'll tell you what, Dark Knight definitely should have been nominated for Best Film. And we remember the performance.
Special effects back then were very
very good. But that film was a tour de force of Heath Ledger's playing the Joker, and everybody knows how iconic that performance is.
We were talking about the Tron thing. Do you want to pull
Tron,
that up?
I mean, the problem, you know, the thing I've been looking at is that people talk about, you see Oscars so white, Oscars so this and that, and people are focusing on the nominations and who's nominated. That's not what the issue is. The issue is the Academy itself. And the Academy runs about 20 years behind, because how do you become a member of the Academy? You become a member of the Academy because you're appointed by two of your buddies. They nominate you, they vote on you, they bring you in, and you're there for life. And a lot of these people don't wind up watching film. They're not making film. It's not like you have, and you do have directors, cinematographers, et cetera, but you have a lot of people there that haven't made a film in years, or they're there because they're friends of someone, and there's a natural bias that will happen if they don't think, and it's human nature, if they don't think a film has a chance of winning something, well, why am I going to watch that? I'm just going to vote for the film that I think is going to win, and not on the merits of the film. The problem with filmmaking, and when you're doing awards like this, is just like watching subjective type of sport. Well, which one did the best performance on their ice routine or in gymnastics? There is some level of subjectivity, but unlike, say, watching a sport like that, you're looking at film, which was the ultimate act of multimedia, where you're combining on this hand technology, and you're combining over here true art, and you're fusing the two together to a point where you don't know where the technology ends and the art begins, and vice versa. So, and whoever's able to do that where it's seamless, even with films that are not special effects crazy, you know, like Avatar or whatever, there's still a level of technology there. The problem is you go back to a movie like Tron that came out, I think, in 1982. So far ahead of its time that the members of the Academy saw this, they said, you know what? You can look this up on the web. I'm not making this up. They said, you know, they used computers, so they cheated, so we're not going to nominate them for Best Special Effects. For 1982, as cheesy as that looks by comparison to stuff today, it was mind-blowing. It was way ahead of its time. But it didn't get nominated, and people were kind of rightfully PO'd about it. But the problem is that it was so out of touch with the way that the membership of the Academy looks at it, and that, you know, these people are in there for life. They're not in touch with what's going on currently.
So they have, though.
So ironically, I'll finish real quick, is that when you look at a film that comes out now, like Avatar that we were talking about, guess who's in the Academy now all these years later? It's people that are familiar with how a movie like Tron is made. They look at a film like Avatar and they go, we know how much work that is. We know how groundbreaking that film was. And then it gets nominated for Best Picture, Best Director, Best this, Best that, right down the line.
There's been a large number of people, even in the last few years, I believe, that have joined the Academy. So they are getting a wider range of people, younger people, different backgrounds, So when we're seeing different things with the nominations, but in the end, it might turn out to be an art film that wins.
Yeah.
Anyways, Roma, I think, is the favorite to win it, and it is a beautiful film. A great way of just telling a story about overall humanity through the prism of one person's life and how she was interacting with this family that she worked for. And it's a beautiful film, and it also does a great job of incorporating some history from the early 70s of Mexico City and how the history of what was going on there with riots and political things happening played directly into what happened to her in her life. Really smartly done, and an excellent job of filmmaking, in that by Alfonso Cuarón, who has done Y Tu Mama Tambien and then Gravity. He was the first Latin American winner to win, and he's been involved in 28 nominations as different things, because sometimes when you get into this producer category, then you get all the secondary awards. So, but he was the first Latin American winner, and now here he is back again with Roma, which might win it, which would be interesting. You want to hear? Let's run through a list of, we're talking about, some of the directors who got snubbed maybe this year. Bradley Cooper didn't get snubbed, much like Ben Affleck.
Yes.
Remember what happened there? So maybe A Star Is Born wins, but he got snubbed.
Yeah.
Ryan Coogler for Black Panther, Barry Jenkins for If Beale Street Could Talk, which a lot of people were shocked that didn't get really much love at all. But it came out a little late. We have that problem every year.
Yeah.
I think these movies need to come out before Christmas, basically. Yeah. And then Peter Farrelly for The Green Book, which got a lot of nominations, but he didn't get nominated. How about two directors who never won an Oscar? Alfred Hitchcock and Stanley Kubrick.
Alfred Hitchcock never won an Oscar?
As a director.
As
he
a
got
director,
a
but he got
achievement
lifetime achievement, and he got a slew of awards for technical stuff and everything else.
As a director, no.
Yeah.
And then how about, here's a list of movies that did not win Best Picture.
Yeah.
Citizen Kane, which is widely regarded as the greatest movie of all time.
Yeah, right. And it doesn't win Best Picture.
Taxi Driver, Shawshank Redemption, Casino, Raging Bull, Psycho, Rear Window, The Shining, Wizard of Oz, The Graduate, All the President's Men, Apocalypse Now, E.T., Goodfellas, Saving Private Ryan. I always thought Saving Private Ryan won.
It did win some Academy
Awards. It did not win the Best Picture, though. So those are some great, obviously, historically recognized as some of the great movies of all time that did not win. So back to the movies. What do you think of all these, they just nonstop? Well, you were talking about Aquaman. You kind of thought Aquaman was better than Black Panther. But
I
what
thought
do you
it was
think about
better.
how many of these superhero movies come out and how often?
They come out a lot, but for a long time, these films weren't respected by the Academy because, like I was saying earlier, these are people, they don't, they're coming from an era. Think about what kind of films were coming out 20 years ago. You didn't have, these superhero films.
Well,
you didn't have
you had the Hulk,
string.
You had Spider-Man. Spider-Man would come out every.
You have to look at, in my mind, you look at Batman Begins, and that's the dividing line between a lot of these films that were kind of bad. They weren't all that great. And then Batman Begins, Christopher Nolan did that film, and that's the dividing line to hey, look, this is how you do a superhero film. And it's basically followed that idea, that formula all the way through. Then you have a film like Dark Knight, which is just mind-blowing. It's just so good, and you look at Heath Ledger's performance in that, you look at some of the other performances in that film, and it just took it to a whole other level, but people in the Academy, they weren't ready for that. They did give Heath Ledger a supporting actor Oscar. He really needed, I think, the lead actor Oscar, but but what can you do? I mean,
there's an interesting thing in the categories this year as far as mentioning that lead actor and supporting. I was a little surprised that Viggo Mortensen got lead in Green Book, and then Mahershala Ali, which I always butcher his name, is the supporting actor. I would have thought his character would have been the lead, but and of course Ali won for Moonlight. Recently in that category for supporting actor Sam Rockwell for his rendition of George W. Bush. But he won recently for 3 Billboards.
He was great in that. He played the cop.
Yeah, I thought he was a little over the top in 3 Billboards, and in this I hear he's a little bit more understated. So he's got some range, obviously, there.
And he was really good in Iron Man 2.
And speaking of the Batman movies, Christian Bale.
Yeah, playing Dick Cheney.
Yeah.
The makeup work on that is amazing.
Oh, yeah.
And it's actually pretty opposed because we know Gary Oldman won last year with all the makeup. But I mean, there's makeup involved with Christian Bale here, but he gained all the weight for this.
Oh, yeah.
And he had lost weight in The Fighter, where he was a rail, and now...
but also more famously for The Machinist, where he was down to like 120, 110. And this movie, he put on a lot of... And this is the other thing that I guess it probably happens all the time, but this year I was kind of struck by it. All the Best Picture movies have like multiple nominations for the actors, just about. Black Panther didn't have any, but Black Klansman only had one, but Bohemian Rhapsody only had one, but The Favorite has all three of the actresses are nominated. Green Book has two, Roma has two, Star is Born has two, Vice has three, Amy Adams, Sam Rockwell.
Yeah. Amy Adams does a lot of work with Christian Bale, you'll notice.
Yeah, and then, so, you know, in the lead actor category, it's Christian Bale, Bradley Cooper, and how about Willem Dafoe, who is nominated now for the fourth time for At Eternity's Gate, playing, you know, of course, the famous actor, or the famous artist, Vincent van Gogh.
Right.
He's been in over 100 films. I didn't realize at one point, as I try to get to my notes here, in The English Patient, he played another famous artist, Caravaggio.
Ah, okay.
Very interesting. So I just wanted to run through some of his movies because he's been in over 100, and I always loved William Dafoe.
That's really amazing to think he's been in over 100 films.
He first was cast in a movie, which I don't have the title of, in 1979, and he was fired from that film.
Really?
But since then, he's To Live and Die in L.A. was really his breakout in 1985. Last Temptation of Christ, Mississippi Burning, Born on the 4th of July, Wild at Heart, Clear and Present Danger, The English Patient, American Psycho he was in with Christian Bale. Then he was in all those Spider-Man movies, a bunch of them. Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou, which was very comedic performance by him, great. He was in one of the XXX movies, Inside Man, which is directed by Spike Lee. Grand Budapest Hotel, he's been in John Wick recently, and he was in Aquaman, I heard.
Yes. Yeah, he was very good in Aquaman.
Yeah.
And, you know, real quick, Aquaman, I was kind of surprised. I didn't know if it was eligible this year, if it's next year, but great cinematography. And, you know, the thing about what you're talking about with best actors, actresses, and the supporting, the thing I always like to stress is that if you take, the supporting actor can be best defined that if you take their performance out of the film, it just completely damages the film.
Oh, yeah.
It can be a very small time that they spend in the film, but if you remove that performance, you can't repair the film. It's done.
So with that said, I don't think you've seen The Favorite.
No.
Emma Stone, of course, is nominated here, and she's
a good actress.
You would put her into that category because without her, the movie would lose a lot.
Yeah.
I personally am not a fan of Emma Stone's. I think she actually overacts. I like the whole time. It's like one of the old SNL sketches. Take it down a notch. You're not on stage. This is film. But she is just like, I think she overacts. I think that's what I finally figured out is what I don't like about her. I did not like her in La La Land.
No,
I didn't think she put any chemistry at all. And, you know, but anyways, if you did take her out of this movie, and this movie is wild.
Yeah.
The final clip of this movie is a mind melt of epic proportions. It really breaks you down big time. And that was the other thing. The year of Moonlight, which I guess was a couple years ago. I remember doing your show.
It was all La La Land until it was Moonlight.
Yeah. Right. But that year, I think it was, or one of the more recent years, I was on your show saying that it was the year of no endings.
Yes.
This year, it's the year of all endings.
Yeah.
The endings in the movies I saw were like Black Klansman. I had never had as an emotional, visceral response to the end of a movie as I ever had with Black Klansman. Spike Lee was very smart with what he did with this film, and it all added up to this scene at the end where you just wanted to like vomit all over the place based on the current events of the state of this country right now. You know, the Favorites ending was outrageous. Roma had a very strong ending. Some other films that didn't get nominated, First Man, First Reform had a very big, huge ending. Tully I watched the other night, a Charlize Theron film. Yeah. Crazy ending with that. So there was a lot more this year with emphatic big things happening at the end. I know we're inside 3 minutes, I think.
Quickly say, best animated film will go to The Incredibles 2.
That would, I would say so.
Yeah.
It looked very well done.
I've seen most of the animated films that were nominated, and that's going to win.
Some people that I'm hoping win, because we're not going to make any real predictions here, I don't think. Because you know,
I'll go with Black Panther, believe it or not.
All right. I'm going to stick with Roma because I did think it was a tremendous movie. But I do want, I'm hoping Spike Lee wins for BlacKkKlansman. There is like a very European-centric list of directors. Paweł Pawłowski, Yorgos Lanthimos, and Alfonso Cuarón in the director category against him. But Spike Lee, as we all know, was just jobbed years ago in Do the Right Thing, which was one of the greatest movies of all time, and Malcolm X as well. So if he gets it now, even though BlacKkKlansman is not going to be his best movie, I'll be happy with that. And I'm also pulling for Glenn Close, who I think maybe had the best performance. The End of the Wife also was a big jarring kind of end. She has 7 nominations, which is the most ever for any actor to not win. And she has a great history as well. The Big Chill, The Natural, of course, Fatal Attraction, Dangerous Liaisons. And one of my favorites, The World According to Garp. So here are the list of people she's lost to: Jessica Lange, Cher, Jodie Foster, and Meryl Streep.
Wow.
All right, we're about 30 seconds
out.
And
Meryl Streep is not nominated this year.
I know. No Meryl Streep, no host.
Was Randy Newman nominated?
What is going on? No Randy Newman.
No Randy Newman. I don't know.
Kevin, thanks for coming down.
But it could be very interesting. Watch, but don't bet. And it's either going to be a train wreck or it's going to be very interesting.
Don't forget,
it's going to be very interesting.
Movies, the Danbury Westerners, The Rookie and Field of Dreams at the Palace in Danbury, March 3rd. So next week, and a week from after the Oscars. Kevin, great to see you. Thanks for being here. I think we're out of time. Here's some popcorn for your parting gift. And,
thank you so much.
We'll see you next time.
Yeah.